beef ribs are juicy, tender and very, very tasty. And they're cooked in a salt crust.
Big thanks to Napoleon Grills for sponsoring this episode.
And of course for our recipe we're gonna need some beef ribs. Look at these beauties. 3 bones and dark red meat with intramuscular fat. And I can't say it enough, that fat means flavor and it's important to our dish. Now what we want to do is prepare this the best way we possibly can. And that means we gotta get rid of the fat and the silver skin that sits on top of this beef. Because if we want flavors to penetrate, we need to take this off. So I'm going to take a sharp knife and I'm going to run just underneath that fat and silver skin and start removing it. And look at the results. Beautiful beef, loads of intramuscular fat, and while we're cooking the beef, that's all going to render down and make this beef extremely juicy. For the salt crust, we're going to mix 2 kilograms of salt, 2 egg whites and a cup of water. I could just take my beef ribs, pack them in salt, cook them on my barbecue and be done with it. But I want to add a layer of protection to the beef so it's not only salt, and I want to add more flavor to it. And that's why I've taken these fresh herbs from the garden that are just coming up this spring and I'm going to chop them fine. We got some lovely thyme, some rosemary, some chives and of course a little bit of garlic. Once I got enough of it and completely chopped fine, I'm going to pack it onto the beef ribs. And with the beef ribs covered in herbs, we can now finally start on building up a beautiful salt crust. I like to take a tray and then put in a sheet of baking paper. That's just going to make cleaning so much easier. And then we're going to take our salt. We're not going to need that much salt. A layer of about 1/2 finger thick will be more than enough. Then put the beef ribs on. And now it's time for the second layer, which of course then goes on top. Just carefully put it on. Not removing any of the herbs, spread it out and cover the beef ribs. You want to make sure that you got a completely covered beef rib with which you can seal it off completely. I had to make a little extra because mine wasn't going to cover it, and that is super, super important. So if you're short, just make sure you get plenty of salt. It would be a shame if you couldn't make your dish because you wouldn't have enough salt. Carefully cover it completely. I don't want to see any red, nothing. Completely covered. This is now ready for the barbecue. So let's go check out our new Napoleon Kettle Pro grill. Well, this isn't it, because this is the kettle grill that I currently own, the Napoleon Kettle Grill Pro. For me, it is one of the best kettle grills that you can get, and it's just a really easy barbecue to work with. But they decided to replace it with this. This is the new Napoleon Kettle Grill Pro. And I'm super excited about it because they improved some features that can really work out well for us. For instance, we now have a top vent that closes all the way down to the bottom, but then not just seals off, but seals off super tight. And the same thing goes for the bottom. You can seal it off completely. And if you want to take out the ashtray, then you unlock it by opening it up all the way and get the ashtray out. But personally, one of my all-time favorite things about this barbecue is that it's super sturdy, because you got 4 legs where others have 3 legs and they just shake around and be really, really annoying. But to conclude it, they kept all the good things and improved all the things that could be improving. So this now might be the perfect kettle grill. Now we can talk about it all we want, but I guess the best thing to find out if it really works is to just get the grill grates out and fire it up. If you want to see an assembly video though, we made one and it's in our short section, so go check that out. We also already made sure that we burned it in before we actually start cooking, because you don't want any of those factory fumes in your cook. The nice thing about Napoleon's charcoal briquettes is that they already have smoke wood infused in them. Once the charcoal is lit, the grill grates go in. I'm gonna slide in the beef ribs opposite of the charcoal, which are placed into one side. So we have a direct side where all the heat is, and we have an indirect side. Now all I need to do now is close the lid. Now you want to set the temperature to around 140 degrees Celsius, which is higher than normal, because normally we would smoke the beef ribs at around 110 and 120 degrees Celsius. But now we want a little bit of roasting temperature. So 140 is a good temperature to aim for. I'm going to leave the top lid all the way open, and then I'm going to control the temperature by setting the bottom vent. Now it has directions. It says 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to set it to 1. And once I get closer to that 140 degrees Celsius, I'm gonna dial it in by closing it. It's been over 3 hours now, and I think it's time we need to check on this beef rib, see how far along they are. Ooh, that's not good. Or is it? I don't know. Bad or good? Let me turn this around so you can see what happened. This definitely didn't go according to plan. Look at it. The whole salt cap popped open. That's insane. It's like, I should have thought about this. The beef ribs, they shrunk together and they pushed open the salt cap. Basically doing what beef ribs do. Hey, we're barbecuing. We need some space. I didn't think of this. How did the rest turn out? Oh, wow. Look at that. The giant crust, how strong and thick this is. It's almost like a stone. And still the beef ribs just pushed it off like it's nothing. But what you see underneath, oh, this is still very, very impressive. Let me see if I can get rid of that little bits of salt, little chunks of salt sitting on top of the beef rib. We currently have the beef ribs at a temperature of 92 degrees Celsius. I'm gonna put this on the table and take a close look. Wow, oh, it smells so good. Oh, look at that. Wow. First thing that I'm gonna do is gonna get rid of that excess salt. And don't worry about the herb. It was actually there to protect the meat from the salt, so just scrape it off. It's not like smoking on a barbecue where it can evaporate moisture. The moisture stays inside, it cooks, all the heat goes toward the center, so it cooks a lot faster than normal with barbecue. So you gotta stay close, keep your eye on it. Look at the knife. It is locked in. I'm just scared to that it's fall off the bone tender. It shouldn't be, but I don't want to jinx it. That's hot, hot, hot. Let's tap off some more excess salt. So this looks super good at the moment, and I really want to dive into it and start eating. As barbecuer, we got a trick up our sleeve. I'm going to let this rest, which means I'm going to wrap it up in aluminum foil, get it nice and airtight, and then I'm going to stick it in my oven and set it at a temperature of 50 degrees Celsius. And let it sit there for at least 2 hours. I still can't figure out why it didn't work. I could have never kept it inside. The power of the meat is just too big. Then you can break it with... Yeah. This is so hard. But we still might get a really good end result, and that is what matters. 2 hours waiting minimum. Which means we can get to the next step of this cook. And I have a little bit of burning charcoal left. And since the plan is to start grilling next, I'm going to use that little bit of briquettes that are still burning to ignite some more briquettes, so we have plenty of heat to grill with. The bottom vent is all the way open. I'm going to leave the lid open and we're going to wait for a roaring fire. Once the coals are nice and hot, I'm going to use my rake and spread them out and put the grill grates in. Now the cool thing about this grill is that you can lower the grill grates to the level that you need them and the heat that you need them. But since these briquettes are super hot, I have no worry that we'll get the job done at the highest level. Now let's get the beef ribs. Ooh, exciting. Oh, that looks good. Well, it kind of looks a little bit dull. You know, look at the color. It's a bit, yeah. That's why we refired the Kettle Pro grill, and it's now extremely hot, so we can sear this piece off and get a nice crust on it on the outside. Because yeah, that's kind of the downside with the salt. You pack it in salt, it's not going to get a nice crust. It's just going to be, more of sous vide cooking. But we're going to fix that. And without dropping them, place them straight over the fire. Listen to that sizzle. Now the fat already rendered down and it's just oozing out of the beef ribs into the fire. We might get a little flare-ups, and make sure that we get a beautiful sear without burning it. And without further ado, I'm going to slice into this beautiful beef rib. We got that crust. Ooh, it's even better than expected. Whoa, look at that. That is one juicy beef rib. Your beef rib can look fantastic, but if it doesn't taste fantastic, does it fall off the bone tender? Almost. You see how it pulls away clear from the bone like that? I mean, it just needs like a little tap here where it's still connected, and then, oh, almost fell off the table. Oh, almost fell off the table again. Oh, wow. Oh, don't fall off the table. Oh, that's the smoke ring. We got the smoke ring from where it popped. The salt popped open. This used to be about this thick, and now it kind of doubled in size. I understand now that salt had no chance. The beef ribs are so strong, such a powerful muscle, they're gonna pop open that salt crust. No way, no how. All right, let's give this a try. First on the smoky side. That is tasty. Now on the side where we had the salt crust and no smoke, that is tasty still. I want to say it's not good. I really wanted it to. I really wanted to say this is an inferior method, but the fresh herbs make it just so good. Now I must say the render, because it didn't take that long, it's not as good as barbecue, but come on, this is still good. You can make this at home and you're gonna still have a fantastic beef rib. And the grilling made that crust. I'm not gonna lie to you, I thought this was a failed experiment, but I'm glad I persevered and finished this video, because the end result, who cares about the crust, man? You never know where it's gonna take you. And in this case, food heaven.